My name is Andrew Briggs. I'm a 32-year-old man in America. I have a college-age niece who lives on the East Coast who has used public transportation. She has worked jobs that are late at night. I have a mother from the boomer generation. I have a nephew in high school who excels at sports. I have a sister. I have a best friend. I have uncles. I will one day have a child. There's a homeless man that I've become friends with. His name is Steve. I used to see him when I would walk to work. I have a community of people that I love. I posted about Irina Zarutska in early September, and somebody left a comment that said, "Why are you making this personal, talking about your niece?" Luckily, I didn't have to answer because one of you did it for me. Why do you think? It could have been her. The older I get, the more I appreciate humans' abilities to see themselves in things that aren't them. I can watch Alien and feel fear despite the fact that I'm not a female astronaut. I can watch Black Panther and feel excited to be a hero even though I'm not a trillionaire black superhero that owns a country. I can watch Braveheart and want to save my occupied nation despite never wielding a sword in battle. We can feel these stories viscerally based on nothing more than human empathy. But the closer they are to us, our look, our goals, our beliefs, the more intensely we seem to feel it. But we feel it up to a limit when it's at scale. Whether you decide to call this psychic numbing, the proximity bias, the identifiable victim effect, or parochial empathy, they're all correct in their own way. It is psychologically almost impossible to really grasp and relate to large-scale suffering, but most people remember hearing a story about a death that happened in their neighborhood, a classmate, a friend. And it probably hits you even harder than a 10-car pileup across the country, and even more than something that happened across the globe, and even more still when they look like you, have the same goals as you, the same beliefs as you, and still, somehow, even more, if the killing of them was based on those things, as the thought percolates around your mind. It could have been me. People keep saying none of these are about race, religion, politics. It's just bad people, and that might be true, but I have several voice memos that I'll be including in this episode that you guys actually sent me on Instagram. People from different races, religions, and political backgrounds. They've led me to think that it doesn't matter if this is about those things or not. Enough people believe it that you'd be foolish to not at least consider that possibility.
17-year-old black teen fatally shot on his way back from a convenience store. The killing.
I had just gotten out of high school when Trayvon Martin was killed. At no point was I surprised by the people who were affected by it. They could put themselves or someone they loved in that position. After 9/11, every New Yorker thought, that could have been me. My mom was actually there that day. She went to work that morning just like pretty much everyone else did. Luckily, her job wasn't at the towers. But it could have been her. My metric for if something is really global news is if my mom asks me about it. So when we were talking about the assassination of Charlie Kirk, I knew this was serious. I own a firearm, as do most of my family members, and I remember what all the riots were like during the 2010s and COVID era. So I told them to do what I believe everyone should do. Buy ammo. It is better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. And then nothing happened. But over the next 48 hours, the internet was ablaze with two different things. One was theories on who the shooter was, and two, celebrations of Charlie's death. Maybe this is a controversial thought. I don't think the truth of who the shooter really is matters. It does, but in a strange way, it doesn't. Bear with me for a sec. When the goal is to destabilize and demoralize people, there is a propaganda tool called the firehose of falsehood. They release such a high volume of information and narratives, true, half-true, blatant contradictions, and not true at all, that the public becomes overwhelmed and unable to sort fact from fiction. He's a liberal. He's a conservative. His parents are conservatives. His grandma says he's never shot a gun in his life. Here is a picture of him with a gun. He's wearing a Trump shirt. That's a Democratic Socialist of America shirt. The other one is AI. You can't take a Mauser rifle apart that quickly. What about that plane that took off and disabled its tracking device? The angle of the wound doesn't make sense. Where is the blood splatter? If it came from that direction, his neck stopped a 30-06 round? What about the old Israeli man who took the blame to function as a distraction? Wait, no, there were actually two of them doing that, and one of them was used in a 9/11 video. Did you know the shooter had a trans girlfriend he was living with? No, wait. He was living with his parents. Charlie was actually speaking out against Israel. No, he was having recent friendly conversations with Netanyahu. The crack bang analysis shows that the shooter was probably much closer than the man they are blaming. Here's a body cam video of him talking to a police officer. Here's a video of him at a restaurant right after the killing. Wait, one of those are AI. Wait, no, both of them are AI. That's not the same outfit that he was wearing. It was planned on Discord. It was not planned on Discord. There is obviously an objective truth here, and we will never get it. Not until documents are declassified long after our deaths. So what matters most is what the prevailing theory is, because that is what will influence people and law. And right now, even that is a toss-up. But what we can be sure of is that Charlie was killed because of his ideas. It could have been you. And if it would have been, they would have celebrated it.
Sympathy for Charlie Kirk is fucking weird.
You want to know why I'm so fucking stoked? Go ahead and Google Charlie Kirk.
They got him in the net! Rest in peace, bozo!
I do not feel bad for him in the slightest.
Put down like a fucking dog in Utah, and I could not be happier.
Charlie would have wanted it this way.
And after their cheers subsided, what did they say next? A call for who should be next. Elon Musk, Donald Trump, Matt Walsh, Andy No, Candace Owens, anyone that they've maybe disagreed with. It could have been you. And if it ever is, they will pick and choose the quotes and clips to absolve themselves of guilt. They will remove the context and intention behind them. They will hide anything to exonerate you against their claims and act as if it doesn't exist, just as they have with Charlie. Even something as simple as never finishing a quote.
Bill Clinton in the 1990s, it was all about empathy and sympathy. I can't stand the word empathy, actually. I think empathy is a made-up New Age term that does a lot of damage, but it is very effective when it comes to politics. Sympathy I prefer more than empathy. That's a separate topic for a different time.
They will do anything that they can, post-mortem, to validate it in their own minds that you deserve this.
People have been so radicalized in their online echo chambers, they seek to become more radicalized to justify the rage and hatred that they now feel. One thing I've seen with Charlie Kirk's death is people who are celebrating his death need him to be the fascist, sexist, misogynist, racist person who actively wants the harm and destruction of people against him that they need him to be. No matter what you tell them, no matter what proof they see, he has to be as bad as friggin' Hitler so they can have someone to displace their anger and hatred on, which is why they're so happy he's dead.
They called him homophobic and ignored the videos of him defending gay people in front of hundreds and sometimes thousands of people.
What I will say this, part of being a Christian is appropriately interpreting what the theological says for the individual, but also means to be long-suffering and patient and loving and kind. Jesus Christ talked to all people. Jesus Christ went and did his ministry through Judea and Samaria, and he had dinner with tax collectors, and he had dinner with prostitutes, and he did his ministry in every part of the Mediterranean. What it means to be a Christian, my friend, is to be open-minded but firm in your beliefs, so you can have that belief. But if you say there's something inherently wrong with communicating or associating just because they make different personal decisions than you, sir, are not a conservative. Thanks for being here tonight.
They said he got what was coming to him because he is in favor of the Second Amendment.
I think it's worth it. I think it's worth to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year so that we can have the Second Amendment to protect our other God-given rights.
An unfortunate quote given the circumstances, ironic even. But one true of every right that we have. People have died so that I may vote. People have died so that I may own and operate a vehicle. Every right that is gained and kept will have corresponding deaths to earn and keep it. And if someone tries to take those rights, it will take people standing up for it if it is to remain. And I believe he would still defend it if he knew that this was going to be the outcome. His stance was to have them for your safety, not to kill your rivals.
A great man once said that firearms deaths are the price of freedom. And I would like to ask you, is the price of having a readily available individual travel vehicle fatalities? Because if that statement is true, then that also means that the price of maintaining all of the other liberties that are granted to us by God, according to the Constitution, firearms deaths are a fatality that are unfortunately associated with maintaining our freedom.
They have called him racist and ignored every non-white person that he hired, helped, and befriended.
And I want to give Charlie some credit here, okay? Back in 2019, Charlie Kirk helped a lot of young blacks get to the White House. He changed a lot of their lives. A lot of them never imagined going to the White House, and Charlie helped hundreds of young black boys and girls go to the White House. Charlie, thank you for that.
Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you, man.
So for people who want to call Charlie a racist, kiss my black ass, excuse my language. Charlie Kirk is not a racist.
They have ignored the Young Black Leadership Summit that he organized with Turning Point USA in 2018. They have called him racist despite him traveling the world with Candace Owens. They said his politics would divide families despite calling for families to come together and stay together despite political disagreements.
Never let politics get in the way of the beautiful relationship between father and son. My advice first is for the son to the father, understand he comes from a different generational perspective. He thinks government is probably a good force and, that we shouldn't question our institutions. Now, your son, understandably, is seeing it harder than ever to own a home. He's seen a border wide open. He's seen lies from politicians. He's seen the enrichment of the ruling class. And instead of interrupting and want to get in an edge, smartly be like, maybe my son is processing a way that I might not agree with, but he's growing up in a different circumstance than I ever would.
They have done all of these things because it makes it okay in their mind. He was the enemy, and this is what must be done to an enemy.
If a man got stabbed in the middle of the street, would you kneel beside him and ask him what his politics were? No. That's how you treat humans.
And then when you are gone, they will harass your wife and family.
He was my husband, and I loved him. And he loved me almost as much as he loved America. And I want to thank all of the brave, heroic first responders who responded heroically. Heroically.
They will make jokes that your children are going to grow up without a father and say that she is a single mother now. These same women calling themselves girls, saying they love supporting women, will do that to a woman who loved her husband so much that she swore to carry his mission onward, even after he was killed. It could have been you. And if that isn't enough, if someone from their side speaks up in your stead, if they shed a tear for you, they will mock them next. Look at what happened to Jamie Lee Curtis, someone with a trans child who cried for Charlie despite their disagreements.
I disagreed with him on almost every point I ever heard him say.
Yeah.
But I believe he was a man of faith.
Mm.
And I hope in that moment when he died that he felt connected to his faith, even though I find what he his ideas were abhorrent to me.
Yeah.
I still believe he's a father and a husband and a man of faith, and I hope whatever connection to God means that he felt it.
You can see what the replies were to her on X. Look at what is happening to Dean Withers.
Imagine being a 12-year-old, watching your dad fucking die. Nobody deserves that. Not even Charlie Kirk. Nobody deserves that.
He cried for Charlie, a human moment as he reflected on the loss of an opponent, someone that he knew, someone whose eyes he had looked into, same with Parker. And what did we see in their comments? What do we see in their live streams? Shame heaped upon them. Do not cry for them, an insult to the cause. They have shown themselves to be an unreliable ally, and maybe you have too.
I don't know about y'all, but for some reason, seeing Dean Withers cry over the death of Charlie Kirk pissed me the fuck off.
Watching Dean boohoo crying over Charlie Kirk's death was very interesting. And I say it's interesting because I don't recall ever seeing him have that type of reaction to any of the causes that he claims to care about.
Look at how many of the comments are people saying exactly that. Unreliable white allies. Of course, the straight man is crying for the other straight man, and if you have cried, you are just as bad as them. You have shown the cracks in your armor. You will not stand firm when the time comes. You better not fail the purity test. Not right now. How dare any of you falter in the wake of this success? There is one less enemy. All for the crime of talking. It could have been you. So we must ask this question. See, I was once in a relationship that nearly got physical. At no point in that relationship was I ever worried about being hurt until it happened. From that point on, I knew that that was on the table. I knew that line had been crossed, and I knew that that was the new standard. Can someone tell me what the new standard is for those who cheered? It is not clear what they will not shoot you for now. At one point, you could infer that they might, as a way to defend themselves if attacked, totally fair. But now, we know that this option is on the table.
Again, these are the type of people we're dealing with. Quite literally outside chanting about the fact that Charlie Kirk got shot in the neck. They're happy about it. They're rejoicing. They're celebrating.
If you think the way Charlie did, there is now a previous event you can look at and think, will they kill me? And celebrate because I think that way too. So let's make a scale and think of Charlie as a 10 for it. Would they do the same to someone who is a 9? What about an 8 or a 7? What is the difference between Charlie as a 10 and someone who is a 7? Where is the I don't like your beliefs, but I won't kill you line? Again, this was targeted. It was one person for a reason. So now people are forced to ask what beliefs may you hold that will not put a target on you.
Charlie Kirk was just shot at his campus in Utah. Why are you laughing? He is my friend.
I don't agree with anything. I don't think it's right to shoot him.
Your first reaction is to Charlie Kirk is a dick, and you're smiling, and you laugh that my friend just got shot?
I'm not going to go through a list of extremist organizations and groups throughout history with that shared ideology, silencing voices, because I'm sure you can imagine a few yourself.
The American left has no dam, quote unquote, for violence, and so everything is violence to them. I mean, it's in their talking points, literature, and is their entire worldview and ethos as a whole. without a stopgap for actual reasons to go to war, I guess you're always at war. This is seen in schizotypes on the right who even then generally do not try all the dubious route of outright shows of force because like even the most hardened schizo on the right understands blowback and fuck around and find out as an idea than the typical well-adjusted lefty man. It's sad, but the point is that a throttle governor, so to speak, of the right wing just got his shit blown clean off. Everyone should be terrified of what that could possibly mean.
I didn't want this to be my first real video on this channel, my first long-form video, but the simple fact is that if someone can't agree with some of these basic concepts, there will probably be more disagreements for us in the future. This is oddly the most correct jumping off point for this channel. A filter of sorts for this simple fact. You cannot negotiate with someone that celebrates an innocent death. You cannot reason with someone who will villainize another by any means to validate that celebration. You cannot change someone's mind who is like this, because those people are incompatible with a polite society, yet we still insist upon conversation. In ancient Greece, there were people called the Gastrika. Those voted to be ostracized from Athens. There was no defense against this. It was literally just majority rule. If enough people found you to be unpleasant enough that they wanted you gone, that was that. You were gone. During the 2010s and early 2020s, I remember seeing our own modern version of this, cancel culture. People losing their jobs for who they voted for something they said online 10 years ago, for making a shitty joke, for claims about things they didn't do, but it was mostly on a social level. You weren't seeing cancel-aligned laws, right? Until, of course, it was applied to medical records. It's an odd thing to see the pendulum shift when you're in the middle of it. You almost can't believe it. You can't see it because it opposes the reality that you have sat in for years. The people who said they would never engage in cancel culture are now doing that with a certain website to catalog those who cheered for what happened to Charlie. We saw what happened to Tim Allen, Roseanne Barr, Gina Carano. Then you have what happened to Jimmy Kimmel recently, an attempt to use legal precedent of what is called public interest to do the same to him. It's ironic. We were all told what to do during lockdowns for public interest in now this. And a further layer is this, that Jimmy did not lose his job at the time of filming this. He was given a temporary suspension. But cancel culture is here because it works. It isn't because it's cool or flashy. It is simple and has no risk. You want someone gone, metaphorically? Take their voice. Here's the way to do it. Even anonymously in some cases, and I'm sure those who are now wielding this tool don't feel good about using it, but they see the reality. It works. We all obviously agree on some level of cancel culture. Any sane person agrees that we need jails, that certain people who have committed certain crimes shouldn't be allowed to hold certain jobs. If you celebrate political assassinations, maybe you aren't fit to be a teacher, for example. Maybe you aren't fit to work with people whom you could endanger. A few weeks ago, I spoke with Destiny, aka Stephen Bonnell, a liberal debate streamer, only 48 hours after his comments about Charlie and conservatives on Stream and Piers Morgan.
You need conservatives to be afraid of getting killed when they go to events so that they look to their leadership to turn down the temperature. The issue is right now, they don't feel like there's any fear.
Somebody could probably find the clip of he and I talking if they really wanted to, but I more or less said that it seems like everyone is against a tool until they need it, until they finally use it, and it works. No violent protests until they see it work. No cancel culture unless they see it work. No political violence unless they see it work. They will take a morally superior stance saying, I would never do this, until they feel like they have no other choice. Maybe we are in a post-pulling punches world and the winner will be decided by who holds the least scruples about following the rules, so to speak, assuming there ever were any. I'm being really careful with this next sentence, okay? It will almost surely come down to strength and supremacy. Whoever decides they must win and means it. Whoever has the least qualms with doing what they believe must be done, and that worries me. Maybe for an unexpected reason, as some of you may know, I used to help teach Sunday school. I was raised Christian. I could go back and forth with the scripture that calls for forgiveness and pacification and obedience, and I could cite the ones that call for action and rebellion. But remember what something actually says. The truth almost doesn't really matter. It is what the public believes. It is how it is used to influence people and law. I have been a personal trainer and health coach for over a decade, and I cannot tell you how many times people who did not subscribe to the beliefs I hold would try to use them against me, usually as a joke, but the point remains. I don't care for your input on my health and fitness if you are 200 pounds overweight. Why are you, a Christian, listening to a wolf in sheep's clothing as it devours your flock? They say, well, maybe if Charlie was more Christ-like, then what do you think they did to Jesus? Forgiveness is complicated. They say you do it for yourself, not for the perpetrators. Maybe that's why Erika did it. I will not question someone drowning in grief about why they do what they do, but I will give you another scale. If forgiving the man who assassinates your husband is a 5 out of 10, at what point will Christians forgo forgiveness for something else? A 6, 7, 8? What do those actually look like? Because it's hard for me to even conceptualize something on a personal level that could be worse than this. It is hard to see comments on her page laughing at her fatherless children by large pages and established creators. It is hard to see people disrupting vigils for the sake of being edgy. It is hard to keep telling myself that these are just bots when people come up to me in real life showing me memes of Charlie being murdered, thinking I am on their side as they laugh, excited to show me another.
I've been seeing a lot of people reacting to this tragedy basically by saying that America is too divided, we need more unity, we need to unify as a nation, we're too polarized. My point of view is that look at what the House of Reps did when called for a moment of silence for Charlie Kirk. They couldn't do it. They couldn't hold a moment of silence for a man who was shot in the neck in front of his 2 daughters. They couldn't do it. My point is that unifying with these people is completely fucking useless because we try to unify, we try to talk, we try to debate, we try to reason, and then they shoot us in the neck.
Again, these are people you seemingly cannot bring to reason. They would trade their own family members if they thought that they voted for the wrong person. You think they care about a widow and 2 fatherless children? It could have been you. In 1856, Senator Charles Sumner delivered a speech in opposition of slavery. Open debate. The marketplace of ideas, if you will. 2 days later, Representative Preston Brooks beat him so severely with a cane that he was unable to return to his duties for several years. The North saw Charlie as a martyr, celebrated for his stance against slavery. The South saw Brooks as a hero, sending him canes engraved with encouraging phrases like, "Hit him again." And then one election cycle later, the U.S. entered the Civil War. I'll leave you to draw the parallels.
There's a clear pattern with Charlie, Irina, Austin Metcalf, BLM, and even COVID. BLM riots burned cities, destroyed black-owned businesses, attacked federal buildings, yet the media called it a peaceful protest. The violence was excused. Austin Metcalf's killer was not condemned. He was rewarded with a GoFundMe that bought him a house and a car under the banner of self-defense. If you disagree with that, you were branded a racist and dismissed. Irina's murder was excused away with platitudes. Her killer had been released 14 times by judges too soft to enforce justice. Charlie's death ripped the mask off. If it's done by one of them, it's excused. If it hurts outsiders, it's justified, celebrated, dismissed. Some even tried to claim his assassin must have been right-wing because they can't fathom admitting the truth. Now look at the doxing. People losing jobs for celebrating. The same crowd cheering firings in 2020 over vaccines suddenly cry foul when it's aimed at them. The rule is simple. Oppose them and you're silenced. Charlie wasn't even extreme. He was measured, he was rational, he was warning us for years where this distortion leads, and in the end, his murder exposed it. The tragedy is that the void he leaves will be filled by the very extremes they once falsely accused him of being. And we're all worse off for it.
I'm not a conservative. I'm not a liberal. I think I have made that very clear in my content. I was not a fan of Charlie's, yet I respected his tenacity. I understood why he believed what he did. I understand why he pushed for the things that he did. There was no confusion around why Charlie believed what he believed, as I said in this video that was seen by nearly 3 million people across platforms. I have tried to speak as carefully as I can without engaging in the concessive rhetoric of, I didn't always agree with him, but... because I don't think that needs to be done. If you felt discomfort or sadness for what happened, congratulations. Your moral compass is working. There is no need to qualify your grief. There is no need to shrink against people who say, well, why didn't you speak out about this topic when? Because you do not need to speak about everything. Another video of mine that I'll link above on that. But if what you are feeling is fear, the uneasiness regarding the future, maybe you should listen to that gut feeling. Arm yourself, not to go on the offense, but as a way to defend yourself and your loved ones. But please learn how to use them before you do. It's hard for me to say this, given everything that I've covered, given everything that I think we've all seen online over the last couple weeks. There is still hope, even though it might not look how we expected, even though this might not be something any of us expected. None of us know what the future holds. But I think we can guess a lot easier if we all give up, if we all lose hope. I hope I never reach a point of callousness where I cheer for another human's death. At least, not one whose only crime is talking. Even if I understand why someone did it, I just hope I never get there. Especially if it is someone moderate like him, which I do still mean, and people still don't seem to understand. Someone far right wouldn't be having conversations with liberals, gays, black and brown people, trans people, the people that the public believe are his opponents. But that's what Charlie did. In fact, the only people that he wouldn't talk to were the people on the far right. How out of touch are you to not realize that he was the moderate conservative voice? I see the comments. If he's moderate, oh my God, I'm terrified. Maybe you should be, because you don't know what else is out there, despite people trying to tell you.
That, like it or not, he was the moderate voice on the conservative side. That is how he was able to usher such a large audience, is by appealing to the right side of the spectrum who isn't deep down the rabbit hole on the Nick Fuentes level, and like appealing to the masses of the right side of the spectrum. He had a following of millions who on some level agreed with him and or what he was doing at the very least. And if he can get murdered for that, what does that say for the rest of us?
I don't know where this channel is going to go. I don't intend to become a political commentator, but I also didn't intend to gain 200,000 followers in 1 year across all the different platforms. I'm really trying to bring nuance and reason to things. I'm really trying to have these challenging conversations and point things out that are uncomfortable, but possibly true. I'm trying to talk about these things no matter how complicated they are, how uncomfortable they make me feel. And I will fail in all of those things. Some of you might even think this is the video that I do it in. There's a quote from G.K. Chesterton where he says, "I never discuss anything else except politics and religion. There is nothing else to discuss." And well, they are kind of mixed into everything, aren't they? I'm just some guy. I don't know what my role is in whatever it is that I'm doing here. But I suppose I'll just keep talking as long as you guys want me to. But I hope you guys will do the same, regardless of your opinions, and in spite of those who oppose it. A friend of mine once said, it's really hard to dislike someone once you've gotten their name and seen the whites of their eyes. It's ironic that Charlie would always do that. And it was so effective at disarming people. It was so pro-communication that the only way they could kill him was making sure they did neither. From hundreds of yards away, by someone he would have invited up to the mic to speak, gotten their name, and despite the outcome of that conversation, he would have shaken their hand after and said, "Thank you. God bless. I appreciate you guys watching. My name's Andrew Briggs. Please share this. Follow me wherever you like to watch. Thank you for listening, and I love you guys. I'll see you in the next one. Rest in peace, Charlie Kirk. See ya."
The callousness of what you guys just showed today, that I will show the world on YouTube today, that students at the University of Montana laughed that Charlie Kirk got shot.
Okay, listen, I respect.
You will change. You all, as how awful you have been to me, will change more minds than anything I will say. Because showing your callousness to another fellow member of our human species and laughing that a father of two and a friend was just shot, laughing in my face that my friend might be dead right now, will show people in our world. You will change more minds.